Hello, welcome to episode 32 of the Brew from the Bothy podcast. Can you see I've got a little flicky shark tail? That's because this little monster has just tried to come and join me. We'll see how long it lasts. He usually pesters me to let him in and out, so let's see how long we have Pom Pom the podcast for. I hope you are all well. I can't believe it's been 2 weeks already. Yeah, it's been a good 2 weeks. I've got a lot. Been to places, been able to see our friends on the south coast, and I have done a lot of knitting on my twist cardigan, which I will happily update you with in a little bit. Let's start with what I'm wearing. I know you can all hear those parts. I personally find them delightful. Sorry if you don't. It's a little bit chilly here in the UK. I thought it was going to be much warmer, so I've had to shove on my Cigar cardigan over my t-shirt because I was just too cold. So I'll pop links for this into the drop down below, but it is called the Cigar cardigan. I held John Arbon Textiles Harvest Hues 4-ply, double with some mohair to make it. And it's got this little cute band at the bottom. It's probably a little bit too small when I made it, but I didn't realise it was gonna, it really sucks in at the back there with the band that runs horizontally rather than vertically. So I don't really mind. It's just doing the job of keeping me a little bit warmer today, keeping my arms warm and my core warm. So hence why I have shoved this on, but I love little drop stitch details on there, on the cuffs and around the band again. I can never remember who the designer was. I know it was in a making magazine, but like I say, I'll pop it all in the drop down box. But this is what is keeping me warm. Right, let me show a cat out and I'll come back. Come on, you, stop licking your bum. So, a slightly different category for you for the podcast. This is what I am not wearing anymore, which is the pair of little shorty socks that I made for going hill walking. I really thought I'd crack the code with this. I'm kind of equally frustrated and happy to have moved my thinking around this on a little bit. This is a yarn that was a heavy lace weight, 80% merino superwash, I believe, 20% silk. I wore them one of the days I was up at the Woolly Good gathering in Edinburgh, so I put probably 20 to 25,000 steps on my feet on this day, and what I discovered is that the yarn has kind of shrunk a little bit. This isn't through washing, and it's got very little give in it. So whilst they were comfortable on the first day, then I washed them, and now they've got just no give to them, and so they've, as I've worn them and they've felted, they've come too far down on the heel for me from my walking trainers, so they are no longer usable for walking trainers. They're probably no longer usable for my size feet. I'm a 7, so these are going to go to my niece, who's very woolworthy, and she'll probably wear them for dog walks and stuff in the summer. They'll fit her perfectly. So I'm going to take heed to what lots of you have told me. I'm finally going to listen to you, and I'm going to go back to 4-ply socks but try the princess sole, which basically means for the sole stitches, and I could just do it at the bit that is my the ball of my foot. Instead of doing knit stitches, I do purl stitches, which then mean that I have the knit stitches on the inside, which is that more flattened out fabric, and I'm less likely to feel those stitches on my feet. So I'm back to the drawing board, but I know, and I'm sorry I can't remember who it was, but somebody said that they were thinking about buying this yarn. It was the Katia's Silky Soft, I think it's called. They were thinking about buying it and doing the same for socks. So I thought I would say what I'm not wearing, just so you know, it doesn't work for socks, unless you make them really oversized and then you're ready to shrink them down a little bit when you go through use, but I wouldn't recommend that. So a bit of a disaster, but I'm here to talk about disasters as well, rather than just all this not all the stuff, some of the stuff that works. So if you were thinking about using Katia Silky Soft for this, please don't. It's perfectly usable for other things. It just is not sock worthy, but it's another pair that I've tried. I am a little bit wiser through my methods and testing things out. Let's move on to On My Hooks. I have got something that I can't really show you, but I need to show you a little bit of it. But I haven't added the other colours in, so I think I'm safe to show you this, even though it's for a commission. Let me just hide the other colours under here. One of the reasons I want to show it to you is because of the stitch markers that I've used. And the other reason I wanted to show it to you is the shape that I've got. Now, I have probably remade this shape maybe 5 times now, because what I'm trying to get to is a shallow circular shawl. I want a fairly straight edge across here. I don't want it, you know, when it comes round and it kind of curls up and over, I want it as straight as possible, which this is doing. It doesn't look like it at the moment, but actually it is doing it. So I'm getting that lovely shallow semicircular shawl thing going on, which is exactly what I wanted. But the real reason I'm showing you this, let me get one out of the packet. When I was up at, let me get one out of the packet and stop crinkling. I'll come back. Sorry, that is a lot of crinkle. When I was up at Woolly Good Gathering, I got myself some stitch markers from, how can I butcher this? And Cachun Biach Marna. Basically means the little small cat, to that effect in Gaelic. And I wanted some stitch markers that would work for crochet, but I needed something better than your standard spiral ones, because I find that they fall out quite a lot. I don't know if other people have the same experience. So I wanted to try these, one because they're metal and they're covered in like an enamel paint, so they're nice and smooth, but you can put your stitch in between the two cat ears. I mean, also they're cats, and obviously I'm obsessed with all things cats, but can you see it here? Because my stitch is in between the two cat ears, it doesn't fall off. So I've been testing these all weekend, and they're just sat in there quite merrily doing their thing, doing what they're meant to be doing. So sometimes what I use are these ones with the clip, but if I'm trying to rush through something, it's a real pain. I feel like I have to stop, use 2 hands to undo it, use 2 hands to make the stitch, use 2 hands to do it back up. But this is completely a one-handed affair, so I wouldn't have to drop everything to get it off, and you can still get the stitch marker off both ways, and it just you can pop it in and it will just slip over with the 2 ears, and it really doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't drop out. These are like the crochet stitch markers of my dreams. These are also like the D-clip ones, because you can do them one-handed. If these continue to work, I will put all of these ones into a charity shop and get rid of them, because there's no point in me keeping them in my arsenal when something like this is going to work much better. I have provided a link into the drop-down box for similar stitch markers to these. They're probably manufactured by the same people, but Marna doesn't have these on her website, and I don't know if that's because she ran out of them at Really Good Gathering and isn't restocking them, or she just hasn't got them onto the website or not. So I only wanted to provide you to a link where I knew you could actually buy stock right now. So I've done that in there's an Etsy seller that I've found, but I think they are probably available worldwide. If you typed in cat spiral stitch marker, that's how I found them. And there are pastel sets which I got, and I'm actually regretting now. I wish I'd got the kind of bright disco set, but never mind. I will buy more of these because they are superb. So yes, let's pretend you haven't seen this, but you have seen my little cat stitch markers, which are amazing. They're so good. I don't really have any other like done crochet stuff that I can show you, that I can physically show you here, other than I can show you a vest that has just it's just going live. It's on pre-orders now. It's for a design that I've done for the Journal of Scottish Yarn for issue 9, and the whole issue is about Bernat Klein, who is one of my favourite textile designers. He was just so talented. Like, the reason that we still love mohair today is because he embedded it so deeply in fashion and in haute couture way back in the kind of, I think it was 60s, 70s. Bernat Klein was really at the forefront, and he was great at using like slubby, nubby textures and really clashy colours. And the other thing that he did was he really loved houndstooth pattern, and quite an oversized houndstooth pattern, but again with like slubby mohair textures, like really funky stuff. I'll pop a link down to some of his work as well. So my homage vest started out with me trying out some like really big textured houndstooth, and I decided that was too big, and so the swatch is now accurate. This is what is in the vest, basically. This is my full swatch for it, and I'll pop some pictures up of the actual vest itself. First vest that I've ever designed, and I really enjoyed it. Apart from crochet ribbing, obviously, but I sucked it up and did it around the neck and around the arms and around the waist as well. But I'm like super proud of that design because it came out exactly the way that I wanted it to come out. And the yarn is Kinross 4-ply from Wee County Yarns. This is so soft and delightful. I talked about this in a previous podcast, and I said how soft it was, and I said that I couldn't share the colours with you. But the blue is called Scots Pine, and the orange is called Highland Cow, and it just makes me think of like a can of Iron Brew. That's kind of what I was channeling. It was a smash up of Bernat Klein meets Iron Brew. That's where I went with this design, and I'm really happy with it. So I'll pop some photos in from Journal of Scottish Yarn photo shoot. The second colour that they crocheted up was blue and yellow, and the skirt that she's wearing with it is actually a Bernat Klein original. He did all sorts of textiles, but he's particularly well known for his woven textiles. So I'll pop photos up so you can see it, and I'll also pop a link down below in case you wanted to pre-order Journal of Scottish Yarns issue 9. Yeah, so that's all the kind of making crochet stuff. And then what I wanted to also do, and I feel a little bit like squee about this, I am part of a crochet retreat that is happening between the 28th of September and the 2nd of October. It's down in Cornwall, and it is with Jane, who is the Cornish knitter. She's got a podcast on YouTube, and she also has a yarn shop down in Falmouth, which is called Stitches and Cream. And Jane's been running retreats down in Cornwall for a couple of years now. They're like very sought after, like beautiful accommodation, really like high-end level retreat, and she's never done a crochet retreat before, and I'm the instructor for that crochet retreat. I feel a little bit icky saying that because it feels like I'm kind of bigging myself up, but I've created what I think is a really interesting 3 days worth of morning sessions, where hopefully you will come out, and you'll have come out of those 3 days, and I'll have scooped a lot of my crochet brain into yours, so that you'll be imparted with loads of like really good little hints and tips for how to finish your crochet and get it to that extra level, and a load of new stitches that you've maybe not come across before, but done in quite a structured manner. Yeah, I'm just really excited about it. I'm excited to go to Cornwall. I'm excited to sit and crochet with people for a number of days, and I'm excited to be able to teach people some of the tips and tricks that I've learned from other people and from the internet, and just to be able to share the crochet love. again, I'll pop the links down below if you fancy it. I think there are only 2 bedrooms left, and there are some like day passes available as well. And if you're coming, let me know, because I'm so excited to come. I'm hoping the weather's still going to be really good as well, and I just think it will be a lovely thing to do, and I will report back once I've done the retreat as well. But yeah, if you're coming, let me know, because I'd love to get to know people before I get there and have to face a room full of friendly faces that want to learn all things crochet. Let's move on to On My Needles. This is where most of my work has been over the last couple of weeks, and I've got it to a point where I really wanted to be able to show you, because this is what I think is quite an unusual construction. Look at all that teal. Oh, I love it. So this is the twist cardigan by Ambah. It starts up here and you're basically increasing. It's almost like you're making quite an oversized shawl to begin with. And yesterday I got to the point where I could break for the sleeves and put those stitches on hold, and I've literally done, I think, 4 rows underneath, which is enough that I felt secure enough to try it on and not break anything to show you on the podcast. This is such an interesting construction. Let me pop on and then I'll be able to talk you through what is next. But I particularly love this centre seam that is running down. That's the back of the cardigan, and it's almost at full length at that before I add the ball band round and at the bottom as well. Let me just try this on. Let's get the tune out of the way. So that's it right up at the nape of my neck, and you can see here that it's going to scoop quite nicely round and across my bust. I like the amount of space I've got in the arm. I know from experience that although it feels a little bit wide now, that's in part because the tube that I've got the stitches held on allows it to kind of widen out a little bit. But I now know that I'm happy enough with the armhole space that I've got that I am actually going to weave in all my ends later this afternoon. But let me pull the back down. You ready to see the back? Look at it. So this, any extra that I put on the back now is all going to be in this same, this is the lightest of the teal colours I'm putting into it. There's very little difference between these two, which is what I wanted. I didn't mind having a heavier contrast up here on this bit, but I wanted very little contrast between these two, partly because this is the colour that is also going to be picked up to come all the way down here for the button band, all the way down the bottom. So I wanted to make sure it would just blend really nicely across all of these colours, and it does. I love this. Do you know sometimes you make something and you're like, oh, I don't know which way you're going to go until I cast off. And sometimes, honestly, you cast things off or you finish them up in crochet, you try them on and it's like oh, you're just not what I wanted, you're not what I expected. This, I think, is going to be exactly what I wanted. Loving the fit, loving the length, loving the armhole sizes. Let's see, I've got about maybe 3.5 weeks until the mill open weekend. And I want to have this finished for then, down in Devon, because it's knit by numbers and I like to wear John Arbon yarn things while I'm down there working on their mill open weekend. So this kind of has to be finished. It doesn't have to, but I would really love to have it finished for 3 weeks' time. So in case you're wondering what happens next, because obviously the back of it is longer than anything else, the next set of instructions, I've got a couple more rows to add in the full length, is that I basically go from the left front to the middle. So I'm basically going to be working here, 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 here in short rows. And what that is going to do is build up this length here, but not loads of length on the back. And then when that's done, the same thing happens on this side. Sleeves, bottom band goes on. So whilst I think I've done quite a bit of work on this, I think I still have an awful lot to do. There's a lot more work to be done on it, but I'm really enjoying it. If you look at the front cover, I took that photo, it's in our lounge. Basically I could blend into our lounge with these colours. I clearly love teal. Most of our house is teal, to be honest, but the lounge is particularly teal. And at points I am sat in the lounge knitting on this, and I kind of look from my knitting up to our lounge wall colour, and there's no difference between the two colours. Our lounge colour's kind of like this, maybe in between these two colours. So good daylight is required for this make. So I will keep on going. I definitely won't be done in 2 weeks' time, even though Matthew is up mountains next weekend in Scotland. So I could get a whole weekend of knitting in, but even if I did that, I don't think I'd be anywhere near done. And I've got a lot of commissions to work on in the evenings at the moment. So 2 weeks' time will definitely be further forward, but I don't know where I will be at. But loving this. This is the short version. There's also a longer version, and then there's a needle length version if you really wanted to go for it. I definitely just want the short version of the twist cardigan, and I'm just really excited to see how this pans out, because like the way I feel about it at the moment is that this is going to be one of my best makes. I've said that before and been disappointed. I'm hoping that's not the case with this one. So yeah, loving the twist cardigan. So far would recommend. The pattern was really good. It's written out with text, but there's also a really quick and simple table that you can work through for your own size. So that kind of works better for my brain and the way that I want to process that information. So yeah, I really like the pattern and the way it's laid out, and how concisely it's written as well. Yeah, would recommend. And if you didn't want to make a jumper, I think she's got a twist shawl as well. I'll double check on that. Let me just write a little note, because if she does, I will add it to the show notes, because you might want to make a twist shawl rather than the cardigan. I think I just said jumper, I meant cardigan. Continuing the theme with stripy knitted things, I have finished a sock where I was using it up. Let me show you. I was using up all the scraps from the Weatherhouse shawl that I had made from my mum. I ran out of yellow when I was doing the shawl, which is why there's not much of it down in this part of the border. So I found a new yellow to use in the socks. I actually really like this yellow. I think I might have preferred this yellow in this shawl, but we're too late for that. So I really enjoyed making these, and they worked up in no time. I started these when I was travelling, when I was at Edinburgh and Wonderwall and Worthing and all over the place, as a little portable project to start. So I've got one done and I've got another one to start. I started to get a bit concerned about some of the colours I've got left, which is why I moved down to 2 row stripes at the very part of the toe. But if you're interested in a sock pattern, this is very loosely based on my Mini Mania knitted sock pattern, which shows you how to like cycle through 5, I think it is, different colours of yarn with a 5 round repeat. And the clever bit is you don't have to weave in ends, because I've got a way of making the yarn come in and out, and then you can just like pull them together and you get really neat colour changes happening down your sock as well. So if you're looking at this thinking, I do not want to weave in all those ends, you don't have to, because I will always take a lazier route or work out a lazier route to not have to weave in ends. I really don't enjoy it. So I don't know when I'll get the other one of that done, because I don't know. I want to do a load of videos around it on colour changing and stuff, so we'll see. But there's no rush. They're kind of for a Christmas time thing anyway. I think that's it for on my needles. Last time round, I completely forgot to give you discount codes, which I said I would do. Completely forgot. I think I've just been doing so much work, like updating patterns right in the thick of it with tech editing stuff, that I forgot to tell you. So things like the Halo Cowl has now come back to me and is on all of my websites, and is just like nicely written up and done well, but I forgot to tell you that I'd launched it. So Halo Cowl is now mine. The Omni Shawl got the update, the Fall into Winter got an update. And so what I've decided to do, because I could not be bothered to go across all the different platforms and remember what patterns I'd given a glow up to, and tell you, I have just put 20% off site-wide on my own website, which is provenancecraft.com, and also on Ravelry. I haven't done Etsy because Etsy is so expensive. So if you want the 20% off, go to Ravelry, go to my own website, and you can get 20% off Halo and Omni and all the other patterns, and it also applies to journals. So like Murit, I've got some issue ones of Murit which you can't get anymore. You can currently get them for 20% off too. I literally did it site wide because I couldn't be bothered. So if you want any of those patterns that you've seen me talking about over the last few weeks, they're all on there, 20% off. And remember that over at Provenance Craft, I also do a pay what you can. So the cheapest my patterns go is £3, and then you can get 20% off that. So if you're like in a bit of a nub at the moment and you can't really afford loads of patterns, then your cheapest route is to go to my website, do the £3 pattern and take the 20% off. I will not be checking in on you. I won't be like looking at your email address and your name and judging you or anything like that. You do what you need to do to get patterns. I'm happy to put patterns at a pay what you can level, and for you to be able to take advantage of that. I have zero judgment on it. I've put links in the drop down below so you can go and have a look at those two sites where I'm selling them, and I'm going to keep that on until the very end of May, so that is like midnight on the 31st of May UK time. So have at it for the next basically just over 2 weeks. You'll get that 20% off if you use the discount code GLOWUP20, and it's in the drop down. Done. The final thing that I wanted to mention, there's been no yarn incoming for 2 weeks, which is quite good because there has been a lot incoming over the last few weeks. When I mentioned this last time round, a lovely person came into my comments and basically said, words to the effect of, I see it like you being a librarian and having lots of books and a large to be read pile. And I thought that's a great way of looking at it, because you wouldn't really second guess having loads of books available to you, how somehow that's a lot more worthy. Although my friend Heather, if you are watching this, you absolutely do have like more books than you need. But yeah, I really like that idea that it's just like a to be read pile, some of my yarn, and I thought that was a lovely way of looking at it, so thank you for that. And it was a nice little justification point. I am off up to Lancaster on Saturday to the Northern Yarn 10th birthday, so who knows, there are 2 yarn shops in Lancaster. Some yarn might come home with me, we will see. But I might do some little videos on there and then have some bits to show you in the next 2 weeks of that little system round, that little walk around Northern Yarn and Ethel and M. Well, he was here for the intro and he's made his entrance for the outro as well. That is everything from me. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Please hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you're working on, what yarn you're using. I always love coming across like new designers and new ideas. So when you tell me what you're working on, I go and have a little look because I just think it's interesting. There's a lot that you miss on Ravelry and on the internet that you don't see that other folks are on. So it's always good to see other patterns and yarns. Hit the like button if you can, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Let me just try and save my cat claws out of my jumper. Until then, have a lovely 2 weeks. I am waving. Will he wave? He will wave. Pom Pom is waving and purring for you. Bye bye. Oh, you look so annoyed. You are actually a happy cat. You just look really annoyed.